Well, all right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. I'll continue letting people in as they join. Um, so, welcome everybody to Family First Wednesday. I am Beth Ayers. I am the Peer Support Training Coordinator at Montana's Peer Network. I am also a family member to two young adults with behavioral health challenges. And I am happy to be here with everybody and I'm excited for our presentation. Before we get started, if you guys want to just hold your questions until after the presentation and then we will open it up. If you want to put any into the chat while the presentation is on, you can. We just ask that you keep your questions very general, no personal identifying information as far as like, specifics to, you know, um, your children or any open Social Security things, anything like that. So, and then also I believe Kayla has put the links one of the links into the chat, and that is for the family division is developing a board of directors. So there is a board application if anybody's interested. We're looking for family members who have experience raising children with either behavioral health and or special health care needs. And then also if you want to become a family member, it is free. That gets you just kind of some um, additional information, emails, access to a Facebook group, things like that. Alrighty. Well, we will get started. Today we have Dave Bear with us. He is with the Social Security Administration. He is the Public Affairs Specialist, and he is going to talk to us about all things Social Security. Thank you, David. Welcome.
And good afternoon, everybody. So I'm over here in basically Billings as well. I'm a little further on the east side. But yes, second winter, I think, 'cause we really haven't had much, but I'm kind of I'm hoping now that there's enough ice on Fort Peck where I can actually get up there and do some ice fishing now. It's been real kind of sketchy, so I'm almost a little bit excited about this besides having to endure it, but you know, it brings good things, so I'm happy with it. So today I am going to be talking about Social Security benefits, and the focus is mainly on the disability, transitioning. So I'm going to cover both aspects of it, though, because prior to age 18, we're going to look at your child. They could still potentially, there's benefits they could qualify for. We look at them differently than once they become an adult. So once soon as they hit age 18, they're now an adult. So as I'm going through this, I'm going to be talking about, both sides of, hey, what happens. And a lot of this information would actually apply to you as well. So it's good information to have. And yes, as we go through, sometimes me talking about things actually creates more confusion and more questions than originally, because a lot of people don't have this information. So when you start giving information, it creates more questions. So yes, please hold those questions, put them in the chat, and I will address them. I am going to stop my video, though. I like to pretend and say it's bandwidth. Really, it's just for my own comfort so that I can drink water without having to, try to hide it, or if I got an itchy nose, I want to be able to scratch it. So I'm going to turn that off, but I will open it up when we get back to the Q&A. So here is the overview of my presentation, kind of how we define disability. We'll talk about what we call substantial gainful activity. Then we'll talk about the two different programs that we administer for individuals that do meet our definition of disability. We'll talk about the application process, and then we'll talk about, the different types of health insurances that are available, and some other topics that will apply to you as, a parent of a child who's transitioning, such as, being a representative payee and things of that nature. Okay, so what is the definition of disability? This is the adult decision. Okay, so age 18 or older, our definition is a person has to be so severely disabled due to a verifiable medical condition that has lasted or expected to last a minimum of a year or result in death. And they throw the result in death in there for, say, somebody's diagnosed with a terminal illness and they're estimated that they have 8 months to live. They could still qualify for Social Security disability. Okay, now that medical condition also has to keep them from doing what we call substantial gainful employment. All right, now for 2025, that number for disability is $1,620 a month. And if somebody is legally blind, they do have a higher threshold of $2,700 a month. Now, so what that essentially is saying is Social Security is saying in order for somebody to qualify for, as an adult, for any of our disability programs, they have to be so severely disabled they cannot work and earn $1,620 a month. Okay, so that's our basic definition. It's pretty black and white, the definition is, but as you're going to learn as we go on, there is a lot of gray in the actual determinations of somebody being found disabled or not. Now, I said that we do administer 2 different programs, okay? And I'm going to go into each one of these in more depth, but I like to compare them side by side so everybody kind of understands what the 2 programs are. First one, the one on the left, Social Security Disability Insurance, okay? So that is an insurance program. It's a wage replacement insurance program, just like our retirement benefits are wage replacement insurance programs. In order to qualify for those, you have to work and earn and pay into Social Security because it's a wage replacement program. If you didn't have any wages, what can we replace, right? So that one is the insurance program. That one's when you pay FICA taxes or OASDI, depending on what your pay stub, those funds go into the Social Security trust funds, and that's where the money comes from for individuals under the disability insurance program. Okay. Now, there are other ways that somebody could be on disability insurance, even if they've never worked. Okay. And that's, if you read on the bottom, pays benefits for workers and adult children with a disability since childhood. Okay. So what that means is there's actually a potential for your child to draw a benefit off of your record. Okay. Because you've worked and earned and paid in, even if your child never has. Okay, that's the disability insurance, and that money comes out of the Social Security trust funds. Now, the other program that we administer is called Supplemental Security Income. And I know our acronyms are so close. I wish they would have made it like totally different because people mix up SSDI versus SSI all the time. Even internally, sometimes, because they're so close. But SSI, Supplemental Security Income, is actually a needs-based program. It does not come out of the Social Security trust funds. It actually comes out of general tax dollars. So if you pay federal income tax, those funds are used to pay individuals on SSI. But it is a needs-based program, so the individual has to have limited income and resources. Okay. Now, both of these programs, that definition of disability applies. Okay, so they have to meet that definition of disability to qualify for either one of these programs. And there is a potential for people to actually qualify for both programs or one or the other. And we'll talk about how you qualify for each in a little more detail here. Okay, so when should I apply for disability benefits? Okay, for under normal circumstances, if somebody's going to apply for disability, they should apply as soon as they become disabled. Okay, now when it comes to the SSI program, if children are under the age of 18, there's some little bit difference there. But once we're talking about adults. So once that child is an adult, as soon as they turn age 18, you want to make sure that if they are disabled, you want to make sure you file those benefits for that application as soon as possible, because our applications for benefits right now are taking on average 6 to 8 months for a medical determination. Okay. Now, there are circumstances where they do come back a lot quicker. If some, we have certain disabling conditions that are just known in the medical community to limit people's ability to do work. So those can be super fast. Or, say somebody is terminal. I've seen uh, applications submitted one day and then they have the medical evidence that shows somebody was diagnosed with, with a terminal disease or one of these disabilities that everybody in the community knows limits work, and they'll award it the next day. But on average, it's 6 to 8 months. So you want to file as soon as possible. How do you apply for benefits? There's a couple of different ways to file for benefits. You can go online and file, but there are limitations for the SSI application. Okay, you cannot file SSI online in certain scenarios, especially for children's applications. Uh, so you're going to want to. The other option is to call your local Social Security office and make an a phone appointment there where you can file that application. And that's our national number there. But you can also find your local number, whether you're closer to Bozeman or Billings. You can use that locator, and it's ssa.gov/locator, and you just enter your zip in there, and it'll tell you what the closest jurisdictional office is and all their contact information. Okay, so what happens when you file an application? So when you file an application, whether it's online, through the local office, whatever it may be, what happens is at the local Social Security office, what they do is make sure that the individual meets the basic requirements for disability benefits, something we call technical requirements. Okay. Technical requirements are if you're filing for the disability insurance, do they have the insured status? If they're filing for SSI, do they meet the income and resource limits? Okay. Are they still working? We have lots of people who might have a verifiable disability, but they still keep working and say they're making $5,000 a month. Well, they come in to file for Social Security benefits. They're not going to we can't file that application. We can file it at our level, but we can't make a medical determination because they don't meet that definition of disability. So we'll deny that application at the field office. Okay, so those are the technical things that the local Social Security office does. Now, if they meet all of the technical requirements, what we do is we forward the case to Disability Determination Services. And that is actually a state agency. It actually, at Social Security, we don't actually make the medical determinations. It is the state that does that. We at Social Security are, like I said, are the technical requirements. We decide whether they technically meet the requirements to draw a benefit. But the state disability determination services, they actually will make that medical determination. So we send the application to the state, and in Montana, that DDS is located in Helena. And what they do is they will gather all the medical records and information about the case. So that we're going to write to the hospitals, clinics, doctors, everybody to try to get the medical information. Okay, now once we have all of that, what DDS does is they go through this 5-step process. Okay, and the first question they ask is, are you working? And the reason why they do it, didn't we just do it at the Social Security office? Yes, we did. But there are so many times that an individual will tell us at Social Security that they're not working, but when we get the medical evidence, they've told their doctor, oh yeah, I'm working over here 5 days a week. So DDS will go through those medical records and verify that they're not working, that they essentially provided correct information to Social Security. Now, if they are working, DDS will not go any further. They send that application right back to the Social Security office, and then we have to develop it to determine if it's above that SGA level or the 1620 and the dollar figure. Okay. Now, if they're not working, then they look and say, is the medical condition severe? If the answer is yes, they say, does the impairment meet or equal a medical listing? Okay, so a medical listing is essentially all of the known medical conditions that people can have. Okay, and this list gets updated all the time as new things are added. For instance, long COVID has been added to it, and things get taken off of it as well as they find um, cures for things or ways to mediate the effects that a condition has on somebody's ability to work. So this list can change, but it's, do they have, does it meet or equal a medical listing? If the answer is yes, then what they do is they look at, can you do the work you did before? Okay, so looking back and saying, okay, what work has this person done in the past? Are they capable of doing that? If the answer is no, then what they do is they look at, can you do any other type of work? And this one can be tricky because when DDS is looking at, can you do any other type of work, they're looking at what work is available in the national economy. And that is a real trigger, kind of makes people upset. If they get denied, they will get a list of jobs that are in the national economy that the vocational expert says that they're capable of doing. But maybe they live in Roundup, Montana, and that job is not available. That does, kind of upset people because they're like, do you expect me to move to get a job? And it is the federal government and national economy. The answer is yes, they do. So that one can be, sometimes difficult for people to understand, is because we're making a determination on whether somebody can work or not due to their medical conditions, not what jobs are available within 5 miles of you. So that one can be hard for people to swallow sometimes. And that's where I'm saying our definition of disability is real black and white, but there is so much gray in there. Okay. You can have two people with the exact same medical condition, and you can have two different determinations, because when we're looking at an individual, we're looking at their age, previous work activity, their education levels. I mean, so we're looking at that person as a whole, saying, can this individual find a job in the national economy and successfully do that job? So that's why there's so much gray in there. And there can be same condition, like I said, for two individuals, but because their education and work experience is different, you can have two different medical determinations from DDS. One could be an allowance, one could be a denial. And we will tell you our decision. Okay. If the state agency DDS approves the application, Social Security, they send it to Social Security. And what we do is we will recontact the person because we want to talk to them, make sure everything's still up to date. And then we will send them a letter that says, hey, look, you've been awarded benefits. This is how much you're going to get. This is when you're going to get it. This is how it all works. Okay. Now, if it's denied, DDS will send that letter. And that letter will be, I mean, it's like 15 pages long, listing all the medical evidence we used, what experts we talked to, and then it'll explain why the application was denied. And like I said, that's where it'll say, we denied the application because we have determined that you are capable of doing work, and here are the jobs that the vocational experts felt that you were still capable of doing. So that would be in that denial notice. Now, if somebody is denied, they can file an appeal. Okay, so somebody files an application, they get that denial letter, and then they notice as they're going through the list of medical providers that their main doctor wasn't even used. They can file that appeal. You have to do that within 60 days, okay, to file that appeal. So once you get that notice, you have 60 days to file an appeal. You can do that online, or you can call the local office and they can send you a packet. You can fill that out, whichever is the most convenient for you. And there's multiple levels to an appeal as well. So you have your initial decision. If that gets denied, you can file what we call a reconsideration. And that goes right back to DDS, but a different set of doctors, a different set of vocational experts will look at that. Okay. If they deny it, you can file an appeal to go in front of what we call an administrative law judge. So it's essentially you get to go in front of a judge and plead your case and say, hey, this is why I should be on benefits. Okay. If the judge denies you, then you can appeal again to go to what they call the appeals council. And the appeals council will review the judge's decision and determine if the judge made the right choice. Okay. Now, if the appeals council denies it, you can actually it's essentially suing Social Security, and you can go to district court and actually sue Social Security saying that they made an incorrect decision. Okay, so there's multiple levels of appeal. All right, now I'm going to go a little more in depth, like I said, into each one of the individual programs. I've kind of did high level stuff. So disability insurance, that's the insurance program. Remember, you have to work and earn and pay into Social Security. All right, so now it is a wage replacement insurance program. And in order to qualify it on your own record, you do have to be working and earning and paying into a Social Security and earn a certain number of what we call work credits. Okay. Now, oh geez, my work credit thing is gone. Shoot, we just updated our slides. I'll just go back and talk about the work credits. So work credits vary by age. Okay. Um, the younger you are, the less you have to actually work and earn to qualify for Social Security benefits. So if somebody is younger, they don't have to work as much. Say if somebody is under the age of 21, they only have to work and pay into Social Security 18 months to get that insured status. So, let's say you did have a child who turns age 18 and they, obviously don't have insured status. Let's say they get a part time job. There is a potential for them to become insured for disability insurance in 18 months. Okay, so this is still a program that they could potentially qualify if they were to work and earn, because it doesn't take a lot to earn to get an insured status. For 2025, I believe it's right around $7,000 is all they would have to earn their 4 credits. Okay, which the credits, you can earn 4 credits a year, which that's how that translates. They'd have to earn 6 credits before they reached age 21 to have that insured status. So it doesn't take a lot to get the insured status. So that's something, but it is a requirement to qualify under their own record, is to work and earn and pay into Social Security. Now, as you start getting older, you do have to work and earn and pay more. So, for instance, if somebody's over the age of 31, in order to have insured status for the disability insurance, they have to have 10 years of working and earning and paying into Social Security, as well as have worked and earned to pay into Social Security 5 out of the last 10 years before they became disabled. Okay, so if somebody worked from age 20 to age 35 and they stopped working for whatever reason, they would have that fully insured status. But let's say they became disabled at age 41. Well, they haven't worked in the last 6 years, so they don't have 5 out of the last 10 years of working and paying into Social Security, so they would have lost their insured status. Okay, because it is a wage replacement insurance program, so they do have to have recent work and earnings to qualify for the insured status program. Okay, now if people don't qualify for disability insurance, that's where supplemental security income can come into play. Okay, so supplemental security income is that needs-based program, and it provides those payments from the general fund. So you don't have to be insured to qualify for SSI. You could have never have worked ever, and if you meet that definition of disability, you can qualify for SSI as long as you meet the income and resource limits. Okay, and when we apply for SSI, we do look at everything. As an adult, we're looking at, so this is for individuals once they turn age 18, we're going to look only at the adult. We're going to say, okay, what is their income? Do they have any income? Do they have any resources? Okay, and also where they live. You have to live in the United States to qualify for SSI. Okay, you cannot be living in another country. I had one individual who was asking about their child going on a mission for a year and if they could still get their SSI, and the answer was no. But when they came back to the US, they could get back on it. But since SSI comes out of general tax dollars, we want to keep that money in the US, for the US economy. Now, SSI is a set rate. Okay. So disability insurance, the monthly benefit amount you receive is based on how much you were actually working and paying into Social Security. So you can have somebody getting $2,800 a month on disability insurance, or they could be getting $1,000 a month. And it all varies depending on how much they were actually making prior to becoming disabled, because wage replacement. So we replace a percentage of their wages. So it can vary. With SSI, it is set federally. So, and it's set across the United States. The SSI federal benefit rate for 2025 as an individual is $967 a month. Okay. So that's the maximum you can receive from SSI's at the federal payment. Now, there are some states that do offer supplements where the state might give individuals a higher benefit if they're on SSI. Like, for instance, California does. Montana, the only way to get a supplement is if an individual is in one of those adult group homes. The state will supplement them an extra $100, so that could increase that. But the federal rate, everybody in the United States from the federal government, the max they can receive is $967. And the couple rate, that is for individuals who are married and both of them are on SSI and living together. They don't each get $967. They actually get a reduced rate because the law is saying that they're sharing expenses, so they don't need as much. So they actually lower it. So they would cut the $1,450 in half, and each person would get half of that. So that's what the couple rate means. Now, for SSI, when we are looking at income, we're looking at essentially all income, but we break it into two different categories, and each category affects the benefit differently. So for SSI, earned income, which is, wages, sheltered workshop, self-employment, and you show up, do a job, get paid. Earned income, you can still work and draw Social Security benefits, but if you're on SSI, it will reduce your check by approximately 50%. Okay, so if let's say somebody worked at a job and made $400 working a job and they're drawing SSI, they're on the SSI program. They can work and earn that $400, and essentially what it would do is would reduce their check by about $200, by about half. Okay, so they're still better off working because they get more. You know what I mean? They're still going to get $400, but it only reduces their SSI by $200. Okay, and I say approximately because it's just easier to remember. There is an actual formula for how earned income works, but it's a little more complicated. Technically, if somebody earned $400, we wouldn't reduce their check by $200. What we do is we would take the $400, and if they didn't have any unearned income, we would give them a $20 disregard, and then we give them a $65 what we call earned income disregard. So what we would do is we would subtract essentially $85 from the $400, and then we would divide that by 2. So it's a little more complicated. It wouldn't actually be a reduction of $200. It'd actually be a reduction of $157.50. But a lot of times that's a lot to take into consideration. So that's why we just try to say it's about half for earned income. Now, unearned income is essentially anything that they receive, that a person receives that they didn't earn. So if they do have Social Security benefits or VA benefits, unemployment, interest, pensions, cash from family or friends, that is a dollar for dollar reduction. Okay, so if they get any other type of benefit, it will unearned, it will reduce their SSI dollar for dollar. So if somebody does get, say VA benefits of $500, we're going to reduce their Social Security or their SSI by $500. Okay. Now, this doesn't apply to the disability insurance, only SSI. Disability insurance, we don't care about any type of unearned income. Resources for SSI, we look at essentially everything, and everything counts except for what's on the right there. The one home they live in, one car, some burial plots stuff or resources set aside for burial. There's also a few other exclusions like the ABLE accounts, okay, or special needs trusts. Those can be excluded as well. And what's important to understand about the resource limit, it is extremely low. Okay, it's individual limit $2,000. So if somebody comes in to apply for SSI and they have $2,500 in a bank account, that's an automatic denial. Okay, so that's important to understand for when your kids are transitioning. Let's say they become age 18 and you're ready to apply for SSI. If they have $2,500 in their checking account, they're going to get denied there on the spot. Okay, so understand that those resource limits are pretty low. But if, like I said, if it was an enable account, we would exclude that. Now, requirements for children. Okay, this is a little bit different. All right, so now what we were talking about, those were the rules for somebody who was age 18 or older. Okay, now under the age of 18, if a child were to file for SSI, we're going to look at the household's income. So if you and your spouse have higher income, your child isn't going to qualify for SSI because it is a needs-based program and we're looking at the household income. Okay. But once that child turns age 18, they're an adult. We no longer look at the parent's income. Okay, so that's why they can qualify for SSI once they reach age 18, even if they're still living in your household, because we no longer look at your income and resources. We only look at the child's. Okay. Now, if a child is under age 18, they can still qualify for SSI. Like I said, we do look at the household. The household has to have lower income, be needs based. Okay. Resource limits are still in place. Okay. The one difference, though, between a child filing for benefits is we do not use the same definition, because how are you going to be able to tell if a 4-year-old is capable of earning $1,600 a month or not, right? So instead of doing that definition, they have a different definition where they look at the child and see if they have marked or severe limitations in functioning comparison to other children the same age. Okay, so that's a little bit different. So they just say, okay, well, we know they can't work, but as far as your average child that's 4, where does this child fall as far as uh, their limitations in functioning, whether it be mentally or physically? And the condition still does need to be expected to last at least 12 months or result in death. There is that requirement there. So if your kid fell and broke both legs, they might have a severe limitation in functioning for a while, but it's more than likely not going to last for 12 months. So that's kind of why they have that in there. Now, I kind of already talked about this, but when a child under the age of 18, somebody files, we are looking at the household. So we're looking at who's ever that child lives with, their income and resources. All right. So if the parent, say mom has a 401k with $100,000 in it, they're not going to qualify for SSI. Okay. And then for children, they can have income as well. So let's say that at child support, okay, child support is technically for the support of the child. So if mom and dad are separated and mom pays dad $1,100 a month in child support, well, that's direct income for that child. So they wouldn't qualify for SSI because they would be over that income limit. And then also says Social Security auxiliary benefits. And auxiliary benefits are, let's say that I become disabled. I have a child who's disabled. If I get on Social Security disability, my child can receive a benefit as well. Okay, so that's what that's talking about. And then gifts. Yeah, let's say, you got the grandparents are well off. They send $1,500 a month to help you care for the kid. Well, that would count as income as well. So with SSI, since it is a needs-based program and it is funded by general tax dollars, it is highly regulated and monitored by Congress. So there is a lot that goes into it once somebody is on the program. You have to report any and all changes when somebody is receiving SSI. What do you report? Literally everything under SSI. Okay, disability insurance, that's an insurance program. That's something you've worked and earned, you've paid into. You want to report stuff to us, like if you move, because you know what I mean. If we send you stuff, you're not, but we wouldn't stop your benefit if you didn't, But SSI, you have to, if you move, if you somebody else moves in with you, if you get married, divorced, everything has to be reported. And it has to be reported within 30 days of the change, okay? Because that can cause, because we have to report to Congress so much that it is highly regulated. So one thing that's important to others understand with as your children, get transition, they start becoming adults, is when you apply for the benefits, a lot of times the child is not capable, now they're an adult, the adult is not capable of handling their own funds. Okay. And at Social Security, we have a specific program kind of titling of things for individuals to help somebody else manage their funds. And that is called a representative payee. Now, when you go to file, if you know that your child probably it's not in their best interest to allow them to handle their own funds, you can also apply to be their representative payee. Because at Social Security, we don't accept things like power of attorney, because we had to create our own thing, and it's called representative payee, because like power of attorney has so many different levels, and it can be limiting or it can be all inclusive. And your average claim specialist at the Social Security office, they're not attorneys, they're not lawyers, they don't have law degrees. So we would have to go through every single power of attorney to make sure that Social Security was covered under that power of attorney. So what we did is we created something called the representative payee program. And so when you go to file or assist your child in filing, you might want to also talk to them about being the child's representative payee. Or if you don't want to be the payee, there's also local non-for-profits that actually do that for individuals in the community. But it is something to be aware of and start planning for. If you don't want to be the payee, or if you do want to be the payee, start looking into that payee program. All right, so when it comes to Social Security disability benefits, there is a health insurance attached to the different programs, and there's two of them. Okay, so Medicare is attached to the disability insurance program. Okay, in order to qualify for that, you have to be on disability insurance for 24 months. So there's a waiting period. So once you become eligible for disability insurance, 24 months later, you'll be eligible for Medicare. Okay, and there is a premium attached to Medicare for the Medicare Part B, and it's a monthly premium. Okay, now if somebody's under the SSI, Supplemental Security Income, as soon as they become eligible for SSI, they're also eligible for Medicaid. Okay, so Medicaid is ran through the state, and qualifying for SSI automatically qualifies you for Medicaid. Right now, there is times where somebody can be qualified for Medicaid and Medicare, because let's say somebody is under the disability insurance program and maybe their benefit's only $500. Well, since it's less than the SSI federal benefit rate, they will supplement it and give them the additional $467. So they'll receive both benefits. They'll receive disability insurance and SSI. And in those scenarios, they would be eligible for Medicare because of the disability insurance and automatically entitled to Medicaid as well. So you can receive both programs at the same time. And I know here's another one of our things: Medicare, Medicaid. They're so close and they can confuse you and um, get you tongue twisting when you're trying to explain them. I almost did it myself. All right, so some other things to be aware of. First one is this is our Social Security website. Okay, there is no way I can tell you everything there is to know about disability, about SSI, about retirement, about any of these programs in an hour. We go when somebody starts at Social Security, your first 6 months, you are literally in school for 8 hours a day going through this stuff. And that's only for one of our programs. And then you have to be with a mentor for another 12 to 18 months before you can do just one program. And then if you want to switch over and work our other program, you got to go back to training for another 4 months of doing nothing but 8 hours a day going to school. You're literally sitting in this class, like going. So there is just so many things and so many variables when it comes to Social Security that I can't tell you everything. But everything is available online. Okay. And understanding Social Security, first thing you do is you show up for one of these presentations. It starts giving you information of things you need to look into further. Okay. For instance, representative payee. Well, here on this website, if you see the top right, search ssa.gov, you can go in there and look and see, well, what is a representative payee? Okay, those types of things, and you can start doing the research, start planning so you're better prepared. I mean, you can also call us as well. We can give you more information over the phone to kind of help guide you through the process. Also, this is where you can apply for benefits. You can see it's right there in the middle. There's a lot of cool other things that you can do on there. Like, in the state of Montana, you can replace your Social Security card online. If you get married, you can change your name online as well in Montana. Don't tell our neighbors, okay? Not all our neighbors can do it. But Montana, you can do that. In order to do that, though, you do have to set up the My Social Security account. And one thing that I encourage is lottie-dottie, everybody over the age of 18 that's a U.S. citizen with a valid email address should set up a My Social Security account, okay? I'm going to go through a few reasons why. One is because it's not that hard, okay? In order to set up a My Social Security account, if you just go to that myssa.gov or ssa.gov and you click on set up a My Social Security account, it will ask you to set up a login.gov or id.me account if you do not have one of those. If you already have one of those, you can just use that to establish your My Social Security account. If you don't have one, login.gov, I think it took me less than 5 minutes to set mine up. I just did it on my phone. I did have to take a screenshot of my driver's license to verify who I was, and I submitted it, and then I had login.gov, and you can use it. But the reason why I say set up the My Social Security account, especially your children as you're going to start applying for benefits, or if they become on benefits, the My Social Security account is their personalized account or your personalized account. So if they're on benefits, they can get copies of documents. They can report changes, and if they move, instead of having to call Social Security, they can log on to their My Social Security account and update their address. If they return to work or have a job, they can report those wages versus having to try to mail them in and hope that they get there or fax them in and waiting on an answer. You could just do all of that online. When tax season comes, if you need a new 1099, you log in and print one of those bad boys out in 3 minutes. Or you can sit on hold, trying to get a hold of us, trying to get one to get mailed to you, which you get in 7 to maybe never days. So this account, especially when you're on benefits, it's your account. You can do just about everything on there. Now, even if you don't have an account, there's a lot of financial literacy information in there. You need to start for yourself planning for your retirement. Well, how much are your retirement benefits? If your child is disabled prior to age, if they're found disabled under Social Security rules prior to age 21, they can draw a benefit off of your record. So let's say your child was found disabled by Social Security at age 18 and you're 50, okay? 12 years later, if you decide to file for Social Security retirement benefits, you're going to get a benefit and your disabled child will draw a benefit off of your record as well, okay? That Social Security account will tell you how much you would get. And the one thing is let's say your child does draw a benefit off of your record. Okay. Let's say I'm 62, I got a child who's disabled, I draw my retirement benefits, and my child gets to draw off my benefit. They'll get half of it at that time. Well, as long as my child's still disabled, if I pass away, that child still gets to draw my benefit and they jump up to 75% of my benefit. Okay, so if my benefit was $3,000, they get $1,500 while I'm alive. And then when I pass away, they'll jump up to 2,000, whatever that is. Okay, so and that all that information is on the My Social Security account. So even if you're not on benefits, it's something you should set up. Also, you can see replacement Social Security card. If you meet certain criteria or certain requirements, that requirement is just, different because each state is different. But in the state of Montana, you can request a replacement Social Security card online. So just a ton of cool things that you can do. And it lists your earnings record out on the My Social Security account because it's your account, even if you're not on benefits. So just a ton of cool things you can do with that account. All right, disclaimer. This information is current at the time of the presentation, but Social Security policy is subject to change. Please visit ssa.gov for up-to-date information on our programs because, laws change all the time. So give me 1 second here. Hang on. I'm going to, all right. Can't figure out how to, I'm going to stop sharing because I can't get the video. There it goes. I got it back. Okay, so there we go. All right. We can go ahead and open it up. Does anybody have any questions? I saw some things came in the chat, but I couldn't monitor and do everything all at the same time.
Yeah, so we have how common are denials, how successful are appeals on each of the different levels, what's the typical time length?
Okay, so it can vary. All right. Like I said, there's clear cut disabling conditions that like are common to the medical community that are like, yes, this individual is going to have a very tough time working and earning $1,600 a month. Those ones, they get awarded. Like I said, they're very quick. Now, if you have things that are, more on the fence and can be more, interpreted differently by different medical professionals, like one doctor might say, I think you should be able to work. And then you might have another doctor that says, I don't know if they can or not. Those ones, can be a little more difficult for, to get an allowance on. Okay. And it varies depending, on medical conditions, and the allowance and denials, those kind of ebb and flow as well, depending on how many people are filing. Because, if you have, for instance, a large loss of employment in a community, let's say, like Stillwater Mine, everybody knows that they just did a huge layoff, right? So what you're going to see a lot of those individuals maybe try to file for Social Security benefits. A lot of them probably would get denied. They were just working a job, right? But as desperate times, so that stuff can kind of vary depending on the economy. Like our applications for disability actually dropped off significantly once COVID started because there was all of these payments being issued out. Okay, and there was a lot of funding that was given to individuals, so they weren't as desperate. And then once those fundings start cutting off, well, all of a sudden now we're seeing an escalation in disability applications. So it's a varying number, but at the initial level, I think it's a 40% allowance rate. You know what I mean? And it kind of varies as it goes on. As the levels increase of appeal, usually the allowance rates are going to go down, because if they got denied at the initial level, it means that they were usually, if they get denied at the initial level, one is they're not so severely disabled they can't work and earn, or two, we didn't have all of the evidence. Okay, those are usually the two reasons, right? We didn't have the evidence, or they are determined by a medical and vocational experts. Like I said, it's not me. I mean, I don't know whether, you know what I mean. I can barely spell vocational expert, let alone be one, right? But those individuals, so it could be, those are usually the reasonings why. And then So as you kind of go higher on the levels, the percentage of allowances decreases. Okay, so like once by the time you get to the ALJ, the administrative law judge, you've already had two doctors and vocational experts, different ones looking at it. So when you get to the judge is just deciding, did we follow the law or not? And majority of the time, like I said, when they get to the ALJ, it'll be because the judge they'll get in front of the judge. They're like, yeah, but they didn't even look at this medical evidence. And the judge is like, oh, geez, they didn't. Okay, yeah, here you go. Here's the allowance. So it can vary. Okay. And like I said, seems black and white, but there's so much gray. Okay, so it's can vary, but it can be a long, drawn out process. If you initial is 6 to 8 months, a recon is another 6 to 8 months because it's the same process at DDS, and then to get in front of administrative law judge, not a lot of judges right now. Okay, especially in the state of Montana, we're down to two. So it could be 12 to 18 months to even get to the judge's level. Hopefully that answered it to the best that I can.
Um, Danelle, I hope I'm saying that right. Um, Also said very concerning that they may say someone can work, but the kind of work isn't available in the person's area. Says also, how does this relate to remote work? Do they take into consideration the ability to work remotely?
Well, a job is a job. It doesn't, you know what I'm saying? Like it's irrelevant. And we're looking, like I said, again, the national economy. So, and the dollar amount's still the same. So if somebody's working remotely for Washington, D.C., but they're sitting in Roundup, I mean, that's still work. It's looked at exactly the same. And I know, like I said, that one is really difficult for some people to swallow that whole, you expect me to move to find a job? Yes, 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 they do. You know what I mean? Because that is it is what happens. That's why a lot of people are in areas where they had to move to Denver so I could get a job. You know what I mean? I had to move to Bozeman to take the job with Social Security at first. And I went from a nice house in Billings to I had to live in a trailer in Bozeman because it was so expensive. So, you know what I mean? But it's those things like yes, I did move to get employment. So,
Question from Kara. What is the total dollar amount of child support that will get a child denied if they have the disability?
for SS, okay, so the federal benefit rate is that $967. There's a $20 disregard. So if that child's getting child support of over $987 a month, and if that's the only child, okay, because now let's say you have 4 children in a household and you get $1,100, we would break that up between each one of the children, okay? But if you had an individual child, you're the main caregiver, and this other spouse is giving $1,500 a month in child support, or actually it would be over that $987 because that's unearned income. Okay, so because SSI is a needs-based program, they're saying, do you have the ability to support that child? Okay, so that's why if you have income under the age of 18, it is based on, it doesn't matter how severely disabled the child is, it's whether you have the economical means to care for that child or not. Okay, so if you're getting, like I said, $1,000 a month of child support, then you don't need the 967 from SSI because you have that income from another source.
Okay.
So over 987. But what's important to understand though is, let's say that you got 986 in child support. Okay, you're $1 under. Still apply for SSI because that $1 in benefit automatically entitles you to what?
Half.
Medicaid. So
Oh,
that's important to remember. If you're entitled to any dollar amount of SSI, you're automatically entitled to Medicaid. So that's where it can be important to understand those little nuances. Is, hey, oh well, I'm only going to get $1. Yeah, but you're also going to get, what's Medicaid worth? Geez, it could be worth 10,000 a month. It could be $1 million. Depends on how much medical expenses a child has.
all right. We have two more questions. We have only a couple minutes left, so we'll try to get through these quickly. Danelle asked, how is full retirement age determined? She thought it was 65, but was told it was 66 years and 8 months.
It depends on when you were born. So
Hmm.
they did change that law. So it one time it used to be 65 was full retirement age. Guess what early retirement age was too? 65. So they so they allowed earlier retirement, and then they changed and upped the full retirement age. So if you go to ssa.gov and you go to the full retirement age, it'll pull up a thing that says, hey, if you're born after 1960, your full retirement age is 67. You know what I mean? For instance, mine's 67. So it varies on what group it is. They kind of upped it from 65, then it was 66, now all the way up till 67, depending on what your year of birth is. And how do they determine that? By whatever Congress passes in law.
And then we have one from, let's see here. Miley asks, at her specialty clinic, they see families who are over income, so do not qualify for Social Security or Medicaid, but the child is very medically complicated and needs more, but the family can't afford things. Do you have any suggestions?
There's not a lot. I mean, if they're over the income and resource limits, I mean that's the I mean it's just, they're in the same boat as anybody else. You know what I mean? Like if I got hurt and my medical insurance only had a cap so far, and then the rest I got to pay out of pocket, whether I have the money or not. You know what I mean? That's kind of, I mean, unless your facility has, some type of, waivers or assistance in itself, I'm not aware of any programs where if they're over those resources and if they don't meet the OPA, I almost said OPM, OPA, Office of Public Assistance, which is your Medicaid office, as well as your SNAP and all that. If they're above that, then they're not going to qualify for SSI either. So that would be. I don't know any other resources beyond that.
Well, we're at 1 o'clock. I did see another chat come in. If folks have more questions, how can they get a hold of you for answers?
Well, so I don't have the ability to sit and answer everybody's questions as they come because I'm a public affairs specialist and I actually cover 10 different states. So I do these presentations. I try to get as many answers as I can answered. As if more things pop up, definitely ssa.gov.
Okay.
You can call our national number, that 1-800-772-1213, or you can call your local office. Remember, if you go to ssa.gov/locator, you could go down, enter your zip code, and it'll give you your local office's phone number so you can call them, talk to them as well. It's just
Well, sorry.
if I tried to answer, I used to, when I first started being a public affairs, I'd hand my card out because I was trying to get my name out there because there hadn't been a pass in Montana or Idaho for years, and I had to change my phone number extension because
I can imagine.
I couldn't, and I was like, now I'm like real, I'm like, I'll give you my card, but you should probably, so yes, I apologize, but I just don't have that kind of time.
Well, thank you so much for all the information. David, we have a lot of chats that say thank you, good presentation. Yeah, appreciate all of the information. Yeah, I think that's all I have. We will let you have the rest of your afternoon back, and we will see you guys at the next Family First Wednesday. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you, David.